So the Daily Mail shares this morning. Will this become a major headline in almost 100 news sources like the CT Rust story? I doubt it. Elon Musk has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize as a stout proponent for free speech, joining conservationists, journalists, religious leaders, and political activists in an exclusive group of the world's foremost actors for change. Marius Nilsson, MP for Norway's Libertarian Progress Party, claimed to have put forward the ex-owner and Tesla founder for his adamant defense of dialogue, free speech, and enabling the possibility to express one's views in a continuously more polarized world. Nielsen also credited Musk's satellite internet constellation Starlink, operated by SpaceX, in his decision, noting that its use in Ukraine for resistance fighters to communicate, coordinate, and withstand the attack from Russia as the war rages on. Last week, Starlink won a license for similar use in Israel and parts of Gaza with timely and diverse information from the conflict zone, providing ever more challenging to gather. He says, the multitude of tech companies Musk has founded, owns, or runs aimed at bettering societies, increasing knowledge of both Earth and space, in addition to enabling communication and connectivity globally, has helped make the world a more connected and safer place, Nielsen said. In his argument for Musk's 2024 nomination, Mr. Nielsen said, man can and will only evolve and find together when differences of opinions are sharpened in dialogue with critical thinkers and opposing views. He goes on, echo chambers and yes people do not bring forth the best ideas in cooperation, but decline and regression. Complementary views, opinions, and processes of thoughts unlock the best ideas. He argued that Musk's contribution to free speech and global connectivity were enabling all parts of the world to discuss, to exchange ideas, to learn, and to get to know and understand each other in very valuable contribution to world prosperity and peace. Yeah, like I said, will that hit all the news channels? Unlikely. So this is Randy Kirk. Please hit like, subscribe, notify, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to play at the very end of this program today, I'm going to play a video, or actually a recording of Spaces that you definitely want to hear if you haven't already heard it. It has got Elon Musk's doppelganger, actually his voice doppelganger, and Elon talking together at the same time. It is absolutely hilarious. You'll be laughing. Even if you're sitting in the room by yourself, I know I was. That'll be at the very end. Now, also later today, got Brian White, of course, on Tuesdays as usually, and then Nicholas Gibbs will be helping with Good News Tuesday later this evening. Love to have you join Patreon. Love to have you join some, or rather purchase some of those Cybertruck bottle openers. All right. Here's another story that will not be picked up. Well, anyway, so far there hasn't been a single article about it. I see literally in the hour before this show comes on, I look at probably 200, 300, 400 headlines in all kinds of different places. Not one headline about this. FSD version 12.2.1 is now being rolled out widely, nationally, everywhere, not just California. And reports are coming in about version 12 being maybe the breakthrough we've been looking at. On the other side of the coin, I don't want to kid you. Here's what Holmore's blog had to say. First impression of FSD. Now, you know who he is, right? Okay, he's the one who's had version 12 for a long time now, but now he's looking at 2.1, which he hasn't seen before. Took it out for a little drive last night, and this is his first impression. Very slow and hesitant compared to the previous version. Found myself getting very frustrated. Could be typical new version cautiousness or the fact he was doing it in the rain. Hoping and expecting for things to smooth out over time. Many more reports are coming like this one. Okay, but then this is a more typical report that we're hearing from people that have not experienced version 12 at all. So remember, Mars is experiencing 12 for, I think, about a month now, done multiple videos about it, and so he's seeing a new version. This would be somebody who's never driven it before, and his report is called M44_1RJ, and he says FSD version 12 is mind-blowing. Is Elon Musk sandbagging FSD timeline? I believe Tesla's Chat GPT moment is around the corner. I am buying more Tesla shares for sure. Lots and lots and lots of people reporting that they're seeing it as being way smoother, way more human-like. Pulls up to the curb now, does U-turns on its own. Well, I mean, in other words, it does U-turns. All kinds of new stuff that, again, Whole Mars has been reporting on for some time now, but now these are just the regular folks getting version 12. Actually, my own wife last night drove home from work saying that version 11, which she has not uploaded yet, the version 12, don't know whether we have it yet or not. Anyway, she was saying that it was the best drive she'd had yet, was last night on version 11. It said 100%. From curb to curb, the car drove beautifully. Anyway, this from Market Watch on the more general news, and this is maybe one of the most important news stories of today, other than Elon Musk being up for the Nobel Prize, which you'll probably only see here and on X. Anyway, Market Watch says Home Depot's overall same-store sales, or sales from stores open at least a year, decreased 3.5%, and U.S. same-store sales declined 4%. While the FactSet consensus was for both of those things, they were expecting 3.6, so not exactly a shock here. For fiscal 2024, the company expects EPS growth of about 1%, while the current FactSet consensus implies 3% growth. So they came in lower, about a little bit lower on actuals. They came in quite a bit lower on their projection. And I would say they'll be lucky to get that 1% growth based on what we're seeing right now. Now, the company is expecting sales to increase 1% and same-store sales though to be down 1%. And so that is also fairly negative. Now, some people are already saying, I already saw headlines yesterday saying this is related to fewer home sales, whether new home sales or people moving into new places that are new to them. I'm saying this is a continuation of the boom bust. Everyone did. We did you? We did our home renovations when? We did 2 years ago when we had all this thousands of dollars coming from the government. But also, that means there's nothing left for us to do. Now, that's not 100% true, but all the big projects, the main projects, the ones that we really felt needed to be done, those are all done. And so we haven't done anything for a year. I haven't been inside a Home Depot for a year. So I think that's true for a whole bunch of folks, and that's typical of the boom bust. When the money was there, when the credit was there, everybody went out and they spent the money. Now credit's tighter, the interest rates are super high. Are you going to go out and put money on a credit card right now? No. So people are not doing major home improvements right now. Our expectations are to begin again, probably in the fall, maybe even next winter. That's about when we're going to start doing it. And that's typical also of a boom bust, where finally people get to the place where they need to go do that more expensive renovation or buy the more expensive products. And I expected it after 1 year, which is typical boom bust. It not only didn't happen after 1 year, it didn't happen after 2 years. And now we're seeing it go into the spring of the third year. And still, we're not seeing folks go out and spend money on those more durable, higher priced things. From Reuters, Walmart reported a 3.9% rise in comparable sales, excluding fuel, for its fourth quarter ending January 31, compared to the estimates of 2.91. So they had a good beat. Global e-commerce sales grew 23%. Fourth quarter adjusted profit came in at $1.80 per share compared to expectation of $1.65. Now, this is telling. This is what they said in their report. Americans flocked to Walmart stores to buy its low-priced and discounted products during the holiday season late last year. However, still high interest rates and rising rents have raised concerns that consumers will remain constrained, and a recovery in spending will be slower than previously expected. Remember now, when they say higher rents, they're talking about the fact that rents went up like crazy over a couple of years. Nuts. I mean, 20% and 25%, huge rent increases. So those rent increases are still in place. The fact that rents are now stabilized and showing about a 1% increase compared to last year, that's new leases. So you go out and get all right, so let's look at it this way. Let's say your rent was $2,000 a month 4 years ago. It went up to $2,500 over the last 2 years. Now it's going up to 2,505. It's 2,550. The $50 increase, not a very big deal, but the $500 increase is still in place. And the question is, have your earnings caught up with that giant rent increase? Walmart is saying it's still an issue. All right, then Elon Musk says regarding Neuralink and the first patient to get the implant, progress is good. The patient seems to have made a full recovery. Neuralink effects that we are aware of. Patient is able to move a mouse around the screen by just thinking. Let that sink in. Okay. Business Insider, a recession is likely to hit the U.S. economy in 2024. A new economic model highlighted by the economist David Rosenberg suggests. Now, you know, David Rosenberg is another one of my favorites. He does tend to be bearish, so keep that in mind. He's the bear side of the equation. And he says the economic indicator, which Rosenberg calls the full model, suggests there's an 85% chance of recession striking within the next 12 months. That's the model's highest reading since the great financial crisis in 2008. The model's based on a working National Bureau of Economic Research paper and consists of the financial condition indices, the debt service ratio, foreign term spreads, and the level of the yield curve, okay? Remember, we talk about the yield curves all the time. He says this economic model had superiority over other models due to its history of providing a timely warning of recessions without firing any false signals since 1999. Now, that's not a very long period of time, quite frankly, Mr. Rosenberg. So, okay, you've got it right for 23 years. That's not 24 years. Anyway, he noted that in early 2023, this model suggested only a 12% chance of recession, while the yield curve indicator said the odds of the recession were 50% at that time. The model used by Rosenberg also helped explain why the closely followed yield curve indicator has so far been inaccurate in predicting recession. He says it also explains why the yield curve didn't work as a recession predictor in 2017 to 2019. Easy financial conditions. Easy financial conditions. Let me say it again. Easy financial conditions. Extremely low debt service obligations. Very low debt service obligations, historically low. And favorable foreign term spreads offset the signal from the inverted U.S. yield curve, Rosenberg said. All right, so one more reason in my mind, at least, why I think third quarter, we're probably going to have a recession. Larry Goldberg thinks second quarter. It's beginning to look more and more. The main reason I would have, and I'll talk to Larry about this on Friday, if not before, the main reason I'm wondering about a second quarter recession is where is the drop-off in the S&P? We're usually going to see that drop-off in the S&P 6 months prior to the recession. That would also say something against my third quarter because we're certainly not seeing a drop-off in the S&P right now. All right, let's go on. Cardone Capital. This is an interesting story. Pay attention to this. Cardone Capital just started to research real estate investments in New York, believing it was time to get into the New York market. After the overreach by the judge in the Trump case and penalties imposed of $355 million, I told my team, do not waste time in New York. We will double our efforts in Florida, Arizona, Texas, and Tennessee. So that is enough. So now we've got Delaware, Elon leading, and then we've got New York City, Trump leading. Anyway, interesting story. Where are the markets now? Let's take a look here. What's happening at this moment? All right, let's go first of course, to the equities. We have got Tesla down strongly this morning, down $6.35. We've got the Dow down 21, NASDAQ down 167, S&P down 27. And we've got all the Magnificent Seven, except for, well, basically Google's at break even. Everything else is down strongly. NVIDIA down 34.55, $34.55. Anyway, let's take a look at what this all means in percentages. We have got the Dow down just 0.03%, but the NASDAQ's down a full percent. S&P almost a full, I'm sorry, the S&P 0.56. We've got Tesla, though, down 3, which is more than their normal delta against the NASDAQ. We've got the Magnificent Seven, less than Tesla, except for NVIDIA, which is down 4.73% ahead of earnings later today. So the froth, I think we're talking about, in this case, it's froth that people are finally saying, we're probably way too far out there. We're going to sell even before the news, interestingly. Then we've got the we've got the Cathie Wood stocks all down. Many of them around the same kind of down that Tesla's down 7%, down 6%, down 3%, down 0.5%. So again, Tesla acting this morning more like a Cathie Wood, which is really odd. Again, when you have $30 billion in the bank, you should no longer be a risky stock. Okay, so right now still sitting at point. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the bonds. Now, bonds are down. The U.S. 10-year is down 3.3 basis points, which would tend to be a good signal for Cathie Woods and for Tesla. But right now, it's the bonds, the 10-year is way too high at 4.262. It's indicating, that there's not going to be a cut for many, many months in terms of the Fed cut. It's even suggesting, as some headlines are right now, that there could be another raise. Are you ready for that? Could there be a raise in March? That would be just a crazy thing to do. Anyway, but you've also got the 2-year down 7 basis points, again, narrowing the inversion at this point. But the 2-month is actually, are you ready for this? Up a 0.5 basis point. So that inversion continues to get wider, but the 2-year, 10-year, which is the one that more people look at, that inversion is, at least for the last about 48 hours, has been closing up a little bit. Okay, in the oil patch, we've got news on the oil patch this morning. Oil is continuing up 79.55 on the Texas Intermediate. Brent is still about a little less than $4 difference. And natural gas is down 1.68% again to $1.58. Okay, so natural gas, I read articles on that this morning. They just have so much of it. In fact, they have so much of it that there's one company that's now going to convert natural gas to gasoline. This obviously, the plant's going to take a couple of years to get going, but they're saying there's so much natural gas and so much capacity for natural gas, they're going to actually come up with a system that's going to convert it to gasoline. You have this burn off, in Texas, massive amounts of burn off when you're actually producing oil. You have this natural gas burn off, and capturing that natural gas burn off has become very, very important. And they're thinking they want to convert that to gasoline. All right. So why is crude oil up? Probably Middle Eastern pressures right now, because it's not like there's a shortage of oil, but there's maybe some anticipation that it's going to get worse over there in terms of some of the shipping and whatnot, even though if you listened last night, I saw other articles which were saying that the oil tankers are not as greatly affected in the Red Sea as are the container ships. All right. And Larry didn't agree with me. He said, well, yeah, it depends on whose flag that they're carrying. If it's Western flags, then they're going to be potentially impacted as well. All right, then we have got the dollar firm this morning. We have got gold is up a little, 2038. So that's been a bounce now. It was down almost to 2,000. It's now up a total of about 34, 35 points over the last few days. We've got copper up a tad at 384. We have got the Bitcoin up 147 this morning at 52,000. That's about where it's been now for a week. And then we have got, that's it. That's the full range of things we cover, except, of course, going back to Tesla, which is down even more now, 3.54%, down a total of $7 a share. and the rest, again, everything is looking red this morning. And so we want to go to that video I promised you. Here we go. If I can get it going.
Alex Jones thinks it's me?
Yeah, this is part two. You've met me at least 3 times. You're about to die of laughter, aren't you? Yeah, it's me again.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is part 3. I swear, honestly, there's nothing better than to hear you laugh this much. Like, I can only imagine the kind of stress you're under.
Funny.
Yeah, dude. For the past couple of weeks, I basically, oh God, I can't do this.
It's so,
Oh my God.
look, there's 8 billion people on Earth. So
Yes.
odds are
Yes.
there's someone who sounds like you somewhere. And you are that person.
Yes. It gets worse. It gets worse. It gets so much worse. It gets so much worse.
I can't, honestly, I don't believe you're not me.
Yeah, that's a theory.
You are
That's a
me.
theory. People think I'm legitimately your clone. There's been theories that I'm one of your Neuralink experiments. Can you like clarify that I'm not one of your Neuralink experiments? Or maybe I am and I wouldn't realize it? Because that shit's vast. How are your monkeys?
Well,
How are your monkeys? I don't know. How's the test subject?
well, the weird thing is you even ask questions in the way that I would ask questions.
Autism.
And your sense of humor is quite similar sense of humor. It's eerie.
Yeah, I know. I still remember the first time. God.
So
Oh God.
I'm hoping.
I still remember the first time. I still remember the first time when the first time I found out about you was actually.
Okay, so I hope that was helpful to your morning. I hope that makes you happy. I hope that you will, of course, like, subscribe, and notify. I hope that you will buy some Cybertruck bottle openers and join Patreon. And I will see you a couple times later today. And it's been great talking to you.